Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the Elation Nation webcast. I'm your host, Fakul from Elation Studios. We also have Troy from Elation Studios, and we have a very special guest, none other than the founder of Elastos, Rong Chen. Rong, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. I'm good. Troy, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Closing out the day here in Europe. Morning for Rong. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah.
So we have a very jam-packed session today, very much focused on the vision for Elastos and what is Rong's vision. So what we'll be doing is we'll go through the different topics. There's a number of phases that Rong would like to discuss. And as we go through them, Troy will add any specific questions he has or any clarifications, but I think this is going to be very informative, purely for the benefit of the community. And yeah, let's just get straight into it. So if I think a bit more about phase one, I think, you previously mentioned that two critical components of that is bid to move into delegated proof of stake, away from proof of work, and then also the ability to create new side chains. So why are both of those aspects important before we can move to phase two?
Yeah, well, definitely we learned our lessons because no one is, we have a hunch what should be done, but we didn't really know the latency issue as painful as we realize today, right? Let's say we did the first versions of Elastos and which took about more than 10-20 minutes to confirm if you register ID, and took 20 minutes. Definitely the internet consumers, they can't tolerate this kind of latency because they don't. I mean, for crypto geeks, for whatever reason, they kind of survived, and they were still keep on trying, experimenting. But on the other hand, I don't think that's applicable to the internet users.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to have a so-called version 2. So then we use the sidechain, we use DPoS, then we shrink the confirmation time from like 15 minutes to 15 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different than the did speed time, but I'm really excited with the Essentials, app that's coming out, and not needing to sit in front of my phone for 8 hours, keeping it awake for the sync. Very excited to not have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So
right.
What about the ability to create sidechains? Because I think you mentioned until we have that, it's difficult to move to phase two. So what's the roadmap for that?
We because we do have a blockchain team and also have there's a carrier team and also team doing services and documentations. The blockchain, there's a new feature coming up by the end of August, maybe a couple of weeks late because engineers are always overestimate. But since we're only like a month, 2 months away from that date, end of August, so delay by 2 weeks or more, 3. That's about it, right? It couldn't be like another 2-month delay. That what they're doing is that so then we have a CRC consensus as the third tier blockchain consensus model. Then anyone like a game developer or you can say it's a virtual tribe, like a gaming community, have a virtual metaverse community, or literally in the real world, we can have a virtual country, and which one have their own sidechain, which has its own like consensus, or like 12 members, 7 members, they name it, right? If we copy the CRC model, 36 DPoS nodes, and 12 of them is the human noise node. And so if you, let's say, we just directly fork this model, and the CRC 12 members sign off, then we fork another one, another 36 nodes, and with the 12 being human. And that you can pretty much imagine right now, okay, the 12 would be, what do you see, those consensus human-controlled administrators of this sub-community, right? And also having their own smart contracts to enforce their rules of governance. And so you see the metaverse or the new internet will eventually divide it into those sub-communities. Because I don't believe a huge internet is just one gigantic community because of religious differences, the culture differences, or some people doing gaming, some people doing IT, some people doing industrial IoT. Definitely there are different rules, different regulations. How do you comply? Of course, given this internet is permissionless, maybe there's also a niche group doing a new versions of dark web. Who's there to forbid them? I'm not here to encourage them, but it's like the old internet. It's possible, but I don't believe that's the mainstream. The mainstream would be more somewhat regulated, but the regulation is up to different culture background, different geopolitical regions, those things, right? So that's why you see those being able to fork off sub-communities will.
Could you, from a regulation standpoint, would that potentially be sort of regulation that sits on top or with the apps that get built on the platform? So, you have companies that are registered as a legal entity in whatever jurisdiction they're in. They're creating these applications and they have to abide by whatever law or jurisdiction they're in. That, I would imagine, is kind of how the regulation would sort of work in that kind of pocket.
Because if you see, as I mentioned, if we're comparing to the old web, there was an old saying, right? Everyone and his dog would have a website. You cannot tell this is a human website or a dog website, right? We mean like fake news or genuine news, you don't really know. And for this new web, well, definitely we have the capability of permissionless creating your own IDs. Yeah. But on the other hand, the ID is also verifiable. Do you want your ID to be verified? That's your choice, right? Do you want your ID to be verified by a bank or by a government agency? That's your choice. I'm not saying, you have to, but then on the other hand, the bank would enforce, if you're not verified, I'm not going to let you, doing the crypto money, right? Like a crypto RMB or crypto dollar or crypto euro. The government might as well enforce, if you're not verified by the government, then you cannot send and receive digital currencies. And because of they're afraid of money laundering, is money laundering a concern? Definitely it's government concern. Yeah.
Sure. So it's interesting we talk about metaverse because I was literally on the Global Web3 Summit, and a lot of the sessions were about the metaverse. So if I think back to your different phases, we're saying really we need the ability to create the side chains, and then pretty much the tech stack is in a place where we can move on to phase 2, and phase 2 is now talking about different communities, countries, or potentially religions utilizing these different chains. So for example, you've got a custom permission chain, where a government could use. You can have a friend chain where you're talking to other Web3 platforms. But I guess how do we go into that phase? How do we increase that adoption and that awareness that Elastos is here and ready to be used?
From today to the end of the year, we are still not quite a complete open platform yet, because if you see, we're still in the pipeline of finishing up. We have already released Elastos 1.0 for Android, and the iOS is in the pipeline for another week or so. Then after that, you should expect to see the Elastos Essentials working on PCs, Linux, Windows, and Mac, right? So in a similar fashion, like what do you call MetaMask. So if you launch a browser on a PC, then you use Elastos Essentials as a plugin. Like a MetaMask, you log in, right? So you can browse certain websites.
So what will that plugin then do?
The plugin basically is authenticate your login. It's like a MetaMask. You have to connect your website. Let's say you log into the cyberrepublic.org website. You may have to log in through Elastos Essentials, get your DIDs ready, authenticated, so you can access the a proposal, write a proposal in the Elastos, cyberrepublic.org.
Yeah,
things like that, right?
Is that like,
so
it's like you go to certain websites and you have to sign in, right? You got to sign yourself in. It's sort of, is it sort of automatically doing that once you're connected to this plugin, the Essentials plugin? You know, you go to the Cyber Republic and it just recognizes as soon as you go. So you don't have to log in to be able to create suggestions or proposals or anything.
Correct. No more passwords and right, that kind of
Thank
thing.
God for that.
Just
I
like
have an app on my phone just to remind me of what all my passwords are.
And also the difference is not only you avoid IDs, but the logins. You avoid actually that's another paradigm shift on Web 2. Every app, mobile app you're using, or every website you're accessing, actually you log in with the credential of from the website. Let's say you log into Facebook using Facebook's login. You log into Google with the Google login. You log into Tencent with Tencent login. But now what I'm saying is that you control your own DID. So that's your own login. Right, and given your login, you can run some apps or dApps. So that's another paradigm shift. If a lot of people remember the PC days, pre-web, basically pre-95. At that time, you go to a software store and purchase a app, purchase a DVD, a CD. And you install on your PC, right, the app. So you log in to your PC, you own the app. And so currently the web is that you log into the website. The website owns you, own all your data. The PC was you own your data, right? Your documents, whatever you write, you save them on your PC. You own the app, you own your own data. But the current internet is they own the app, they own the data. Yeah. You don't own anything.
Let me ask you this actually, because you go to Facebook, you log into Facebook or Google. But if you go to like a different website, for example, if you go to the New York Times or the Guardian, and you go to it and it asks you, hey, you need who are you? And you can pick from a list of, you want to log in with your Google account or your Facebook account, or I think what we're saying is ideally, eventually, one of the third options will be, do you want to log in with your Elastos did sort of thing? Is that kind of
that's one way to put it. Definitely, that's an option. They could. Right, those websites like New York Times, they could have another option saying you log in with your DID. But on the other hand, the reason why they want a lot of websites, they ask your Google login or Facebook login is, first of all, save you some hassle to remember another set of login and passwords.
Yeah.
And of course, the website, with your permission, will get your friend contact
access
list.
to your contacts. Yeah.
Accessing to your photos, accessing to your other data, right? So they might as well sell them, and so then they can recoup some of their losses for development the website.
Got it.
So if sorry, Foucault, I know you want to move on to the next topic. I'm sorry, but so if Elastos was then a third option, and you said the motivation for that website sort of offering those options is so that they can get access to your data. Well, the fact is that website won't get access to the data. Is that right?
So, yeah, then in that sense, then what incentives do they have, right?
Exactly.
To use data as one of the login options.
Yeah.
I mean, the option's there, but I don't really see it's taking off anytime soon.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay. So I think that's an important point to note. You know, I think we've said phase 1, we build the infrastructure. Phase 2, we now need adoption. And we spoke a lot about the different chains, real world awareness. But is there anything you can share with the community around phase 2 and what we're doing, or what the ES is doing, or what the influential community members are doing to increase that adoption and awareness?
Yeah, well, the phase 1 is pretty much finishing up the infrastructure. At least, I mean, internet will never be finished. Web3 will never be finished. So at least we'll have the first versions of Elastos Web3, or we call it Elastos Smart Web. So now I believe our consumers should be able to see the rough architecture, right? Realize what we're doing, at least. The phase 2 is, of course, adoption, get more users, get more vendors to sign up. Well, we also touched briefly, you know, the existing status quos, the websites, do they have incentive to adopt the new web technology? That's up to them. But I do believe we have 4 areas that we need to focus after, I mean, starting from right now to another 2.5 years to the end of 2023, right? And so that phase is pretty much get more users, get more adoptions. And the 4 areas are, of course, we need to keep improving the infrastructure, because there are so much work to be done. The first version doesn't mean it's complete or flawless. There are still many things on our plate.
Yeah.
The real issues are the 3 areas I identified. One is the fiat money DeFi, not the crypto DeFi, which we start to see the trend taking off. For example, China is doing this digital RMB, pushing really, really hard and quickly.
Stablecoin,
right? Yeah. Stablecoin. The thing is, if the stablecoin is one question I have is, are they going to open the programmability of the digital RMB? Maybe they could. They do definitely. They plan on programming digital currency, programmable digital currency, right? And if they open up the programming capability, and then I'll come back to this. And if you see El Salvador, the other one, is going to
Bitcoin, the national currency,
pass the Bitcoin, and of course it's still a US dollar, not the digital US dollar, right? Yet, to be the legal tender of the country, because that's representing not only the El Salvador. El Salvador is a small country, won't have much impact on the world. But on the other hand, they are the pioneers representing the third world countries.
Yeah, it's precedent.
Because,
it's setting precedent.
Yeah, El Salvador basically has 70% of the El Salvador population doesn't have a bank account. Wow. Only 30% of the citizens have bank accounts, right? And the other video I watched recently, like Argentina, which is, Argentina it's a fairly big country already, has about around half of the citizens don't have a bank account. If Argentina has a half of the population without banks, and then you think about the rest of the third world countries, and that's a big crowd, right? That'll impact or influence their well-being. Definitely will affect the world. If that, like whatever the legal tender they select, the digital ones, if they're programmable, right, and with the Chinese RMB programmable, so then you can start to have a smart contract bundled with the currency. So then you can do some kind of automated escrow, and also following, even comply to government regulations, like for direct selling, the middleman get commissions. But who are the middlemen, right? I'm saying those, are they Ponzi schemers, or are they real direct selling business? Who's to tell?
Sorry, if I can just jump in there real quick. Sorry, and I don't mean to interrupt the train of thought there. But so you're referring to then, what are they selling? You're referring to selling their data? Because we're talking.
No. I'm talking about selling real merchandise.
The exchange, right? So I think just for viewers that aren't as familiar with this topic, I think it'd be good to clarify. So what you're describing is, individuals don't have access to bank accounts. How do they exchange money?
Right.
And you can do it through the form of a smart contract, and that's where Elastos comes in, right? We have the smart contract chain, and that's the opportunity for Elastos. Is that correct?
Yes. Because, but that's, Elastos is just one of them, right? But there are tons of players in this in this arena. Because if you imagine, okay, someone own a small restaurant on the streets, could he raise some funds from his neighbors, right? And could the neighbors kind of liquidate their shares with a more credible system? Yeah. Let's say, because if the street restaurant, if you imagine NASDAQ, right? If you want to have a business going to be listed on NASDAQ to raise funds, you have to go through auditing, you have to go through all the regulations, and it takes at least $1 million for the extra.
How does crowdfunding? Because there's the whole what's that website? GoFundMe. Right. I mean, we're kind of describing that kind of scenario where you have an idea, you're trying to do whatever it is to raise funds. You go do a GoFundMe.
Right. But then is there a regulation behind, right? Are they able to liquidate, right? And so in a way, kind of a street restaurant could be listed, right? Yeah. Quote unquote, very efficiently.
Yeah.
So that's the example, right? Yeah, I think
that's the example. What's the business case? And maybe this is a stupid question, but what would then, using that as the example, right? You have a restaurant that's going to, I don't know, create share. Is it creating shares for itself? How are you
creating shares for itself? And if they make money, should they report tax? If you sell your shares, should those are the things, right? What makes Microsoft being listed on NASDAQ is legal, but then if I list my restaurant, it's not legal. It's just the cost is overwhelming, right? The street vendors cannot afford the overhead to be listed.
Yeah.
And if government has regulations, let's say in China, for example, those limited companies shouldn't have more than 50 shareholders, right? But then in the past, of course, there are people doing those illegal fundraising, you know, like Ponzi schemers, and are they within 50 shareholders or beyond 50 shareholders? Who's there to control? Right, and also when you have those kind of shops owned by 50, you know, less than 50 shareholders, then every time you sell, every time you know you change hands or you raise funds, is there a regulation, right? And those are the things definitely with the crypto technology applied to the real web, to the real world. Yeah, definitely the technology will be there. Of course, it's still just speculative, it's imaginative, but I do see they will change the landscape of the real world fundraising. And
if I could just circle back for a quick, just real quick, and then maybe we move to phase 3 for cool. But we said phase 2 was really around creating utility, getting users onto the platform, right? Like phase 1, let's finish the infrastructure, call it end of the year. Phase 2, sort of now, but really into the next year, creating utility, getting users. What immediately comes to your mind as to what's kind of already happening, but how are we going to do that? You know, I think about profile being one way. You know, that's the way in which we're going to be generating utility, getting people to getting onto the DIDs. We got Starfish Labs, who's creating the Elevate Finance, which is going to create some utility on the Elastos sidechain. What are some other things? Phase 2, how are we going to get users?
Well, first of all, I have to clarify, it's Elastos core teams are still mostly focusing on the infrastructure.
Yep.
They're not really, they don't, first of all, they don't have the bandwidth, extra resources, and also they don't have the expertise.
Yep.
To
phase 1, end of the year, right?
Right. But then they'll keep on maintaining, improving the infrastructures. But I do here, what we're doing the interview is I just basically explain some of the scenarios. I would encourage the communities that will take the initiative and grasp the opportunities. Like I'm the old generation in terms of web development, because I do observe the takeoff of Web 1 and Web 2. Right, in the early 90s and in the about 2008, 2010-ish, the second mobile web took off. So I do believe the third wave, tidal wave, is coming. That I honestly believe that's the case. So I encourage the entrepreneurs, the startups, you know, with the start to look into this area, and there are tons of opportunities for them to grow.
Do I have this right? So we talk about web for the users and people listening. The Web 1 is essentially the origination of the internet, the www on your computer with the 28.8 or 56, you know, whatever modem logging in. The Web 2 was really then the transition into smartphones and apps kind of on you know, apps on your phone. And then Web 3, if I have it right, is really moving more into still maybe apps on a phone, but decentralized? Or how would you?
Decentralized, meaning the individuals have control, right? Shifting from cloud control or centralized the businesses control back into individuals or small mom and pop shops. That's the paradigm shifting. So definitely there are more business opportunities along that line. So if you see what we are helping building, like you named profile, feeds, or hyper for that matter. So feeds is like a decentralized Twitter, and Hyper is more like a decentralized WeChat or those social networking programs. And those are still kind of hybrid dApps. On one side, they're dApps, they have users. But on the other hand, they are also part of the infrastructure because of information sharing is the inherent feature of a web. Without a social networking capability, you're not really a web. So of course, you have to have those macro websites like feeds to be able to post your blogs, right? So basically, we Elastos Foundation support those projects. On one side, we want to encourage the entrepreneurs to launch their own startups, which we don't really hold their shares. Let's say we don't hold any shares of Qum Tech, right? And all the eventually, if they could make money, I hope they do, that's theirs, right? So that's why we encourage people to look into the new opportunities. But on the other hand, we also require those projects to open source, at least the infrastructure improvements parts. Let's say you can talk to one another. You can have a Raspberry Pi to host your macro websites, right? Or you can have a decentralized LinkedIn verified by your corporation, your working organization that you work for, and also maybe verified by the government for your money, the banking aspect of your life, right? Have to be validated. So in a way, profile is a proof of concepts. And let's say they're working on this Mission 89, basically in the European market for those some athletes, right? The young kids and intended to be a football star or a soccer star, and then but then for the young kids before they became a star, they're being smuggled into another country, and then if they didn't make it, are they being dumped, right? And deserted on the streets, and those are the things. They're definitely government involved, and can they validate, verify this is young potential athlete is legit? Those are the things we do encourage our core teams or associated teams to experiments.
Yeah, and I think that's important. Right, what we're saying is that the core teams are building a proof of concepts, but we still need external developers to come and build. So let's say that occurs on phase 2. So now we move on to phase 3, and this is where it gets a bit technical. So Rong, you might need to explain it simplistically, just for the benefit of our viewers. But let's talk about phase 3 and
just before we get apologies. Just really sorry. Just before we get into phase 3, I just want to do a small plug, which is, as we, Rong says, we want to encourage the community to come on and build on the platform, and we want to get other developer houses. One avenue is through the CRC, the council. So if you have an idea of something that you want to build as a developer, but funding may be an issue, or you're seeking advice or feedback, the council is absolutely there through the suggestion and proposal mechanism to try to support you through that endeavor. So sorry, Fuqua, I just wanted to
no. It's a good plug. It's important, right? We need external developers, but we're here to help, right? And that's the the Cyber Republic Council. We have that mechanism where we will review proposals and approve them, and we can definitely help with technical expertise, potentially funding, etc. So thanks for that plug. Okay, so going back to phase 3, Rong, let's talk a little bit about decentralized carriers. What does that mean? What do you mean when you say on your Twitter, producers and consumers, and how everyone can make money?
Basically, if you look at the Elastos Smart Web consists of 2 fundamental concepts, right? When you talk about web or any kind of a graphs, I mean, in computer science term, graph, which basically is some dots and connected by lines, right? So the two fundamental concepts are the dots, the nodes, and the connections, the lines. So with the two things, you basically come up with a graph, right? Those dots, those nodes are, we call it elastic compute, right? Comparing to Amazon Cloud meaning all the nodes are belong to businesses. The individual PCs basically is a subordinate, will dial into those internet nodes. But the PC themselves, they're not internet nodes. They are internet kind of, what is it, perfect peripherals. And the new internet will be, everyone is permissionless. You can create your own nodes, right? And the nodes will be empowered by this elastic technology. So you can have a powerful node. So the decentralized carrier, actually, we're talking about the wires, the lines connecting nodes. So the name carrier comes from, I'll give a little bit a history of it, because we all know what telco carrier is. Like AT&T is a carrier, Verizon is a carrier, China Mobile is a carrier, Orange is a carrier in Europe. And so carrier basically connecting two phones, right? So giving you a illusion, you're talking, one phone is talking to another one, peer-to-peer direct. But actually they're not quite direct, because there's always carrier in the middle. You just don't see it, right?
Yeah.
But then that concept is very easy to for consumers to understand. The new web architecture, actually, we emphasize the peer-to-peer aspect of it. Let's say you have a Raspberry Pi at your home, I have a Raspberry Pi in my home. Can the two Raspberry Pis talk to one another, right? Or can my phone talk to your phone? But then without, it's a decentralized carrier. Basically, it's a AT&T, decentralized AT&T. AT&T, the corporation, is no longer there. It's being, the connections are carried out, the logistics are carried out by those miners, the permissionless participants, right? Say if you are, there's an incentive, there's rewards for it. So you can rent a Alibaba cloud machine, you can rent an Amazon cloud machine, you can rent a Microsoft Azure machine, right? And to join the network permissionless, or in the future, you can even have your home PC. Let's say the reason why it's not popular to have a home PC to be a carrier miner is because of we don't have, at home, we don't have the static IP address yet. But then given the IPv6 is coming along very fast recently, even though IPv6 has been there for many, many years, but it didn't take off because there's not enough demands. But we do see now the demands is coming because of, let's say, at least in China, it's pushing really, really hard. All future telco will be IPv6 only, right? And IPv6 meaning everyone could have a static IP address from home. Of course, if I have a IPv6 address, currently we do actually in the US, but just not many people turn it on. And if you have a router with IPv6 address, actually you literally with a gigabit fiber optics, indeed you could be a node to relay other people's messages. So that said, the technology is pretty much there to build a decentralized carrier, which meaning permissionless to join the carrier network, and also with the third layer like a consensus, like the similar to CRC, right? It's a carrier consensus, so then they can fend off like terrorism or block some inappropriate contents. I mean, you still own your data if you have some God forbid, some illegal content on your PC, but still, unless the FBI crack down on your doors, you still own them, right? But on the other hand, the carrier can block them from sending out. Correct? It's like if you're on the blacklist of a carrier, and basically you can't make that phone call.
So will the Elastos carrier have that functionality, or are you just describing?
I mean, Elastos is just a technology.
Yeah.
So that's where the whoever installed it's like you have a mining machine, you installed Ethereum algorithm, or you installed an Elastos algorithm, or you installed some other blockchain algorithms. So running a PC, a virtual machine from a public cloud, then you installed the Elastos carrier open source software. But then you are participating in a decentralized network. Let's say there we happen to, the carrier team owns 2 domain names. One is called ELA.net. The other one is called PC2.net. The carrier team currently owns both the domain names. For example, right? Of course, you can own Tune.net or ABC.net or whatever, .com, .anything, .io. But then after you host your machine, you can say, okay, I'm a miner. Which network give me more rewards? Am I going to join PC2.net, or am I going to join ELA.net? And those decentralized carriers will provide services. Like if you want to host your own Raspberry Pi at home as your Hive storage, you're encouraged. But then you need some, you go through some loops to install your Raspberry Pi. If you don't want to do that, you basically say, oh, why don't I pick a Tunes node as my Hive storage, right? Currently. So in that regard, can I pick ELA.net, one of the node, say Fox, you registered a short name. I don't know if they opened the 3-letter domain name yet, right? I've heard they open only like 4 or 5 letters after they open, and also carrier team will open. The DID team will open the short name registration second half of this year, so you can register Fox or TT. And so let's say you registered a Fox being your domain name, and then you ran a Amazon cloud computer or your home Raspberry Pi. Say, hey, I have already run my machine. I want to receive some rewards as a miner, a carrier miner. Then should I join ELA.net, the group, decentralized group, right? That's a carrier group, or a carrier DAO, put it this way, more accurate. Or should I join the PC2.net DAO? And of course, they give you different kind of percentage or rewards, right? One is issuing ELA.net token. The other one is issuing PC2.net token as a what's that? It's like a field of liquidity mining.
So it's not going to be, sorry, so those utility from each of these sort of nodes that are being set up, the reward, we're saying they create their own sort of token, you call it?
They have a choice. They can reward you ELA. They can reward you their own token.
But what if it's a singular individual? So let's say Fox here, has an Amazon AWS server in the cloud or whatever, and he's going to open it up and make it available to consumers to use as part of their decentralized storage. What is his incentive? Like, how does that work for him?
Well, if he's let's say it's a techie, and he can launch his own decentralized carrier. He can launch his own like a Hive node, because Hive node is just for storage only. But sometimes you need the reason why the decentralized carrier has more advantages. Like, not only you need a storage, you need a CDN. CDN is so-called content delivery network, right? So let's say basically, let's say you have a movie. Of course, you can put your movie, you make a, let's say this interview, you make this video, you put it on your Raspberry Pi. Then you can directly provide the service to, let's say, your family photo, family video. And of course, like you talk to your relatives, friends, peer-to-peer with the FaceTime, similar, right? Video, one-to-one, one-on-one video. Then definitely you don't need anyone else help. You just need the bandwidth from carrier, from the existing ISP. Then you can talk to your wife, your relatives. But on the other hand, if you want this video to be seen by millions, you need a content delivery network to help you. That content delivery network, can we build a decentralized content delivery network? That's part of the decentralized carrier.
Yeah,
they are going to basically, if you look at Filecoin, some people in the community, crypto community, saying the Filecoin is providing the Web3 storage, which actually this statement is not precise, in my opinion, because you own your own data. How many people want to put your own family photos on a public storage? I mean, even though given it's encrypted, I take it, right? But still, let's say it's my family photo, my photos. Why should I even pay Filecoin to put on a public storage? Why can't I just put on my like a Google Drive, right?
Yeah.
If I don't believe in Google Drive, I can build my own home NAS and to save my data. And how could the Filecoin make their price policy more competitive than Google Drive? That I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying it's not realistic. Because I use Google Drive, I use Microsoft OneDrive or Dropbox or home NAS. That's my choice. Why should I pay Filecoin, put it on the storage and say, okay, I'm safe because I'm encrypted? Right?
Yeah, is that not the equivalent of saying, so how does it work then if, you know, Fox here or if Tomb have their nodes? Is the user paying Fox or Tomb for the use of
what I'm saying is, let me finish the Filecoin. So I believe Filecoin is part of the first tier, the code storage for movies, for videos, right? For files, long files, websites. So that's the tier 1 decentralized storage. Actually, that's part of the CDN. That's part of the delivery content network. It's not really the personal storage. There's a difference there. As I said, for a web, it has only two things. One is the node. The other one is the wire. Of course, there are many wires, right? There are many wires. So, I mean, what I'm saying is, does Filecoin technology belong to the node, or does it belong to the wires? A lot of people saying, oh, that's a storage, that's a Web3 storage, that belong to the nodes collectively, which is false. It belong to the wires, because my movie want to be shared by millions. Basically, I own the master copy, and all the other copies are basically for delivery, not for my master copy. I still own my master copy. So Filecoin is part of the delivery network. I pay them to help me to deliver. So that's the fundamental concept people have to know, have to realize. That also same thing for Fox. If he wants to rent a supernode or virtual machine, he has to decide, is that node for himself, for his node, or he wants to join the delivery network. Of course, if he's so powerful, he can do, it's like, you know, can you do your own content delivery network? It's like, okay, why, same question and answer is that, let's say you purchase a Bitcoin mining machine. Do you want to join a pool, or you want to be your own?
Yeah.
right? If you join a pool, it's maybe more efficient, and because of you still purchase the hardware, but you designate a mining pool. So then you have millions of mining machines collectively mining. Then we share the proceeds. Instead of okay, you have only single mining machine, Bitcoin mining machine. No one stop you from put it on the network and offering mining Bitcoins. But then what do you think, Fox? Do you want to do your own solo, or you want to join a a pool, right? So the mining pool, but then for this internet, I call it the decentralized carrier. Actually, it's a pool. Similar concept. It's a second tier, right? So if you see, and also if you see the deposit rewards currently, because of the halving or this basically the reward because of given the ELA price, it can hardly cover the cost of running the supernodes. I realize, I know that it's an issue, but then we hope by the end of this year, before the time, around the time we do the halving, and so we'll have more incentives. Like, okay, if you join the carrier network, and of course, it's a two tiers, right? One is the hardware or the supernode layer. The other one is which one you sign up. You sign up the ELA.net mining pool. In a way, you can call it a mining pool, right? But it's different kind of mining. You help to do the decentralized storage, CDN. You help to do the content delivering. You got rewarded, and so or you join the PC2.net, or you join some other third-party carrier network mining pools, like say Bitmain or Fish or whatever, right? The second tier kind of web mining pools. Then you got rewarded, and the nodes will, because the nodes can run multiple services, so you got rewarded by those second tier mining pools as well. Not only the ELA main chain deposit rewards. That's what I'm saying. We are looking into those issues.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's quite important. Right? So phase 3, to summarize, it's all about decentralized carriers and giving end users the options to interact with their choice. So, for example, a specific deposit node, or a miner, or where they upload their video, for example, or how they transfer files. It becomes decentralized, and utilizing our carrier platform is another option that the user can use, which makes complete sense. So now let's say we've done that, and individuals are using carrier. It's not just crypto, it's your average content creator, someone who's trying to send something in one part of the world to another. Then we move on to phase 4. So what's phase 4? Red hat, black hat. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, because we are building a new internet, the old internet doesn't have law and order, right? The new internet should have some kind of law and order or regulation or consensus based. Still, we're thinking to, and the other aspect is to remove the middleman from eavesdropping or from hacking, stealing, passing viruses. Then for like smart homes or from mission critical IoT or smart cities, you see from your phone, you want to watch the video from your own surveillance camera, right? There are some reports, instances like hijackers, the intruders, and break into your video camera, making some funny noises, or basically conducting some illegal activities like kidnapping. Knows your home, go arrest, kidnap you, and things like that. So how do we get rid of the website, relay websites, right? And by replacing the relay websites with the with the decentralized carrier miners, right? So the messages will be encrypted end to end from your phone to your surveillance camera and back and forth. So apply that to mission critical industrial IoTs. They have two fundamental problems to solve. One is for the mission critical IoT enterprises, they escrow the source code. They have to build the source code in a clean room. So basically, they ask all their vendors, software suppliers, vendors to escrow the source code and build in a secured area. Then after the image build, they basically lock up the source code in a bank safe, a bank vault, and that's basically literally that's the process, right, of building the mission critical software. And that said, those mission critical enterprises, they don't trust the open source as it is. Because what if some developer were fake, right, or penetrated the company and injected some illegal or virus into the open source? No CEO could read every line of the source code, right? So then there are instances, for example, there's a SSL called a Heartbleed virus, which SSL was a open source software for this HTTPS, right? All internet, the banking, all the nodes are using HTTPS. The S stands for SSL. The SSL used to, in the old days, had a bug called a Heartbleed, which was there for more than 20 years. Somebody wrote it and put it in, and no one bothered to read the source code for 20 years. That meaning whoever wrote it were able to read or to decipher your information along SSL, right, for 20 years, which is a real internet incident. And of course, there's a recent case, some research group from University of Minnesota deliberately wrote some benign viruses for experiments and for showing off. So they literally wrote viruses and checked into Linux source code and made Linus Torvalds extremely mad, because he was just saying that's an insult to the whole community. And they banned the literally Linux Foundation. They banned University of Minnesota forever. Basically, they took off all contributions from University of Minnesota in the past, right? Basically, they took out all check-ins from University of Minnesota and publicly denounced their behavior, because of the research group published some research paper saying, hey, see, we can write a virus, we can check in, you know, so that means open source is not safe. They're trying to prove a point. They made their points. I'm not saying they have a ill intention. Their intention was to alarm the community. Open source is not trustworthy, right? And so I'm not saying, you know, Minnesota made the University of Minnesota research group made, you know, basically they had this trying to warn the community, and I'm not justifying the Linus, you know, ban them forever, but I'm just saying that incidence is real. It's only like within the last year. It's not that far, long ago. So then, if let's see, Elastos is open source, it's a new web. Part of it, of course, there are many other contributors. Whoever that is, right, for the new web, you have to open source. Otherwise, how could people trust you? Even if you open source, how do we avoid the Heartbleed or the U of Minnesota incidents, right? So definitely that there's a need a Red Hat, but later on the company being purchased by IBM, because IBM is a bigger name. So basically they are paying, that name, reputation, just saying, okay, so they endorse this distribution to, let's say, Boeing, right? Or to NASDAQ in case of there's a crash or there's some incidences, right? Who is liable? That's why, of course, IBM can afford to pay more than Red Hat. Definitely that name takes a premium, right? So that's what I'm trying to actually the Red Hat model, because a lot of people from the community asking, what if how are we going to support the core teams after the Elastos Foundation ran out of funds? So let's assume, let's say we still have certain digital assets. Everyone knows how many. I'm not going to repeat. Say two things, right? Are we going to run out first, or the Web3 will take off first? Take off meaning it's going to have a life of its own. It's like the web. The web, like Tim Berners-Lee invented the web, and also University of Illinois, NCSA maintained it, and Apache Foundation maintained it until from like 1990 to 1995, right? After 94, 95, Netscape went public. So Netscape, the company, went on to maintain and improve the web. But around 1998, Netscape crashed or went under. Ever since then, the web had its life of its own, right? No one is really the key contributor to the web. Part of them was contributed by Google, part of them by Yahoo. Yahoo went under, then Google took off, and Google, then there's a Facebook. So then you see the web currently is not really depend on the survival of Google or Microsoft or Facebook. The web itself has a life of its own. So the Web3 should be the same because it's open sourced. It not necessarily just by from the Elastos core teams. As I said, do we agree on the W3C DID protocols? If we do, everybody can, any organization can implement the same protocol, so we can interop, right? They can all log into this web. Then after that, should we have a CDN, content delivering protocol agreed by a standard? Should we have a video conferencing standard? Should we have this and that, right? Like internationalization standard, and for the old there's some funds, or for the handicaps, right? Those were the standards agreed by. Some of them are actually from the W3C, but since W3C is not much into crypto yet, we also need a new set of protocols for the DeFi, for programmable fiat. At least those are all Web3 protocols. If the participating organizations or individuals agreed, then collectively we build Web3 and give Web3 a life of its own, right? What I'm saying is EF ran out of funds, or the Web3 collective Web3 had a life of its own. The two things, which one happens first? And then after that point, we hope, of course, people will recognize our efforts, and so then the core teams could be gaining some reputations to do consulting or signing off with the service companies. We're not, Elastos is a decentralized DAO, right? It's a decentralized network because the internet shouldn't be controlled by any individual or any organization. It's like the old web. Who is the master or controller of the web? No one. But on the other hand, is there a Red Hat or IBM to sign off source code to mission critical enterprises or the smart city overarching, help the smart cities to design the smart city framework, right? So definitely they'll receive consulting fees or outsourcing fees from smart cities. And so those are, I'm saying that I would encourage not only the core teams, but other participants and to look into those areas. If you do believe Web3 will be the future, definitely there's a segment of services.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Ron. So I think, let me quickly summarize, because I know there's a lot of information. So what we're saying is, or what you're saying, apologies, is phase one is the completion of the tech stack, or completing it to the extent that it's ready for real use. And that's targeted by the end of this year. Phase two then is real world adoption, awareness, things like communities or countries or gaming enthusiasts creating potentially their own side chains, permissioned, potentially introducing new friend chains, other Web3s. And that's basically where we will see more and more external developers building on Elastos. And then we move on to phase three, and that's very much decentralized carriers. And a great example is, to your extent, having the option to choose who your content delivery provider is. Do you use carrier X or carrier Y or carrier Z? And you can do it based on, what is the cheapest or what is the most efficient or the most secure. And then we move on to phase four, and that is very much about red hats. So the way I'd like to think of it is, between phase 3 and 4, you could have a scenario where, let's take the webcam example. There could be an individual who's at work, but they want to keep an eye on their baby at home and the babysitter that's looking after them. Right now, they use software to do that. Yes, they buy hardware, they install it at home, they use software, but ultimately there's a middleman, there's a relay website that's actually giving you that information. But the problem with that is if someone hacks it, they have access to your feed. They can see your child, they can see what's going on. But the way to get around that is you cut out the middleman, you do it decentralized. So that has two benefits. It's more secure, but also for the developer, or sorry, the producer of, say, that camera, they have lower costs because they now don't need to maintain a relay website to do all of that for you. Right. And then we move on to the big real world, the IoT mission critical. So for example, I don't know, let's say some sort of utility or power company that needs to utilize that network. How do they find a trusted entity to effectively get comfortable with the source code that they will be utilizing on, let's say, Elastos, for example, to maintain, I don't know, some sort of power grid? And effectively what you're thinking is, okay, right now that may not necessarily exist, but if we think about the core teams, they were there from the start, they've built up a reputation, they could become those red hats. And not only does that mean that, let's say the government of that power company, they have a trusted entity they can rely on, but also it means that there is an income for these core developers from a consulting perspective, expertise, etc. So it's almost, now's the time to get into Elastos. You can be one of the first developers, etc. I guess, did I summarize it? Is there anything you'd like to add there, Rong?
Yeah, I think you're pretty much got the whole thing, and yeah.
Yeah, no, got it. Okay, well, look, thank you very much for your time, Rong. Troy, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, this was very insightful. I know everyone, the community, others are really interested in just, it's been a long journey thus far, right? From 2018 to today. And I think there's been a tremendous amount of work from you and the core teams and others, which I'm sure we're all thankful for. And through this discussion that we've just had, I think it's been really beneficial to just hear about kind of what, where we've been, which we didn't get too much, but where we're going and kind of what's left. And really than the remainder of your vision and how you see it. So I think it's been really useful. I know we wanted to try to keep it to a half hour. I think we went a little over that, but I think it was for all the right reasons. And we covered a lot of good stuff. So Rong, really, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Rong.
Appreciate
Thank you, Troy. Thanks everyone for tuning in. As always, for more information, check out elastos.org. Check out cyberrepublic.org if you want to learn more about the Cyber Republic. Check out Elation Studios. All of our social media links I'll put in the description. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon for the video so we can get this video out there for more. But yes, thank you everyone, and we'll see you again on the Elation Nation.
Thank you.
Thank you.